Ms. Champion, I know that you most recently spoke with your client. Do you waive formal reading of the particulars of the warrants into the record?
Yes, Judge, I apologize. My computer was on mute from when I was on the phone, and I only now realized it. So I'm sorry if you were trying to talk to me before, but yes, I do waive formal reading of the warrants.
Okay, no, I was not. I was not. So you're fine.
Okay.
Okay, so Mr. Foster, because she waives formal reading of the warrant, then I will only read the warrant number and what the charge is. And please excuse my voice. I'm a little under the weather. The warrant number before me is warrant number 24W004612. And that warrant accuses you of rape, which is alleged to have occurred on February the 22nd of 2024. Okay, now to you, Ms. Knott. Do you wish to call witnesses?
Yes, Your Honor.
Please go right ahead.
The state calls Detective Marison. And ma'am, please unmute and raise your right hand. Thank you. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you'll give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under penalty of perjury?
I swear.
Thank you. Please state your name and where you're employed.
I'm Detective Marison with the Special Victims Unit, DeKalb County Police Department.
And what's your badge number?
3380.
And how long have you been a police officer?
About 7 years.
Okay.
Give or
And
take.
Okay. And you're post-certified?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you investigated a crime involving a person who was later known to you as Anthony Foster?
Yes, I have.
And were arrest warrants taken out for
Yes.
Mr. Foster? And he was arrested?
Yes.
Okay. And do you recall where that incident that you investigated took place? Can you tell the court? Was it in DeKalb County?
Yes, it was.
All right. Can you tell us the facts as you recall them to be?
The fact of the case?
Yes. And like about your investigation and whatnot.
Okay. So, the victim in this case, Khalees Manley, was interviewed on several occasions, in which her story was consistent. But the one that I'm gonna talk about is when we did a forensic interview with Khalees. And she stated in the forensic that she ran away with a friend named Eric that she's met online. And she had gotten a room with Eric and his parents. Eventually, Eric told her that she couldn't be in the room with him anymore. So she ended up getting a room with a friend of Eric's whose name was, she called him Cap. I'm not sure his real name. At the United Inn. Khalees stated that she didn't, do anything with Eric to be able to stay in the room, but his parents were feeding her. And so on this particular day when the incident took place, Cap and Khalees had a room at the United Inn, but they went upstairs to room 211 she said, to get some beans, which she described as being drugs. She stated she went up there and at some point she called Mr. Foster Montana. Initially, I didn't know who Montana was, but later I identified him as Mr. Anthony Foster. She stated that Mr. Foster went into the room and told her that she looked like she was sad and that, he's been noticing her wearing the same clothes for the past few days and that he could get her to make money in a quick manner. And she asked him, how would that be? And he told her that, all that she had to do is have sex with some man and, she would make some money. And she also stated that he told her that he has some girls that he uses in the same manner and they could talk to her and talk her through on how it would work. Khalees stated that she denied that she didn't want to do this. And at this time, she said she was in the bathroom when this conversation went down, while Cap, her friend, and another male that was in that room were in the room talking. She stated that Mr. Foster at that time, he he didn't like her answer, and he grabbed her. Well, she said he grabbed her hands as she described it. He grabbed her hands, and he bent her over the toilet. She stated that he put her head inside the toilet, and proceeded to have sex with her from behind. As he bent her over, she stated that he was standing up behind her, and she stated one hand of his was pushing her head in the toilet, and then the other hand was grabbing her hands behind as he proceeded to rape her. She stated that when he finished, she figured he finished because he made some noises, and she assumed he was finished. She stated that she ran out the hotel room. At some point later on that day, she stated that she realized that she had forgotten her phone, so she went back to the room where she met this young lady whose room was under her name was Ashley Hill. The room was under her name, and she had that room with her and the boyfriend, which is the unidentified male that was in that room. And she told this Ashley what happened, and Ashley told her, "Well, I'm gonna tell my boyfriend about it, and we're gonna have a talk with Montana," is what they called it. And when this unidentified male came into the room, Khalees said that he told her, "Oh, how would Montana rape you if he's a Muslim? He wouldn't do that to you, because Muslims don't do that." And so at this time, they forced her to take a shower and kept her against her will in a shower for hours. Initially, Mr. Foster wasn't in the room, according to Khalees, when she went back, but then came back while she was in the bathroom. And she said that Mr. Foster was sitting on a chair and just waiting for her to come out the bathroom. So once she came out the bathroom, the girl that was in the house or in the room gave her some clothes. So they took the clothes that she initially had on and changed her clothes in something different and sat her down. And at this time, Mr. Foster, she stated Mr. Foster told her to give her the phone so he could call her mother. And she gave him the password, and he told her that if somebody doesn't come and pick you up, I'm going to kill you. We're going to have to get rid of you. And Khalees stated that they looked her up, realized that she was missing, and told her, like, "Oh, somebody's out there looking for you. You need to go. You can't be around here." And so they called her mother, and Mr. Foster spoke to her mother on the phone and told her mother, "You need to, come get your child because she's out here telling everybody that is raping her and that she's high on drugs, and you need to come get her." So mom initially couldn't get her, so her sister ended up getting Khalees and took her to the hospital. And then, from there, when Khalees was taken to the hospital, it was like around 10 p.m. She was walked downstairs by the young lady that was in the room, Ashley. Khalees stated that he did walk her outside of the room, but he didn't walk with her downstairs. It was Ashley that walked her across the street to the Wendy's, or across from the hotel to the Wendy's, and they put her in a car with her sister. So at a later time, I was able to obtain video from the hotel, and according to the video that I was able to watch, I'm gonna have to look at my paper for some times that I'm gonna give, like specific minutes. But I started off from what Khalees could remember, as far as she told me that she was sexually assaulted sometimes early in the day, and then she didn't leave the hotel room till late at night. So I did watch the videos, and I found that around 11:17 hours, Mr. Foster left the room to 11. And then between 11:41 and 11:42, Khalees, she was wearing blue plaid pattern pajama pants, a pink shirt, and a gray hoodie. and she approached room 211 with this guy named Cap. She at 11:43 hours, she did go into the room, and at 11:47, she walked out of the room but walked right back in. And then at 11:56 hours, Mr. Foster came back with a vehicle and walked into the room. At 12:02 hours, Khalees was seen on video running out she was in a hurry, and she appeared to be discombobulated when she ran out, as she walked back to the building to her room downstairs, which was downstairs in the corner. But initially you could see her in the video when she came out that she was confused, and it just appeared that something wasn't right, but I couldn't tell what it was. And then she made it to her room. At around 12:14 hours, Mr. Foster was sitting in a car on the passenger side of a vehicle, and you could see Khalees. She ran up to him and she's yelling at him something through the window, but I couldn't tell what it was. It didn't have a sound. And she's jumping up and down as if she's having a tantrum or something, but she's yelling at him. So then she starts running toward or walking in a fast manner towards the side of the hotel, and Mr. Foster is walking in a fast manner behind her. They go around the building. They're only behind the building like maybe 3 seconds the most. And then he comes back from the side of the building, and he just keeps looking back at her. And he walked away. And then at 12:15, Mr. Foster went back up to the room 211, and Khalees was observed yelling at him something as he continued to walk away up to the room. At 12:35 to 12:38, Khalees walked around the property on the phone, and although she did say that she left her phone in the room, so I'm not sure, but at 13:30 hours, she actually left in a vehicle, and she returned back to the room with the blue plaid pattern pajama pants that I described earlier at 16:06 hours. And she walked back into the room 211 with the unidentified male that's Ashley's boyfriend. And she didn't come out till 22:15 hours, where she was actually pushed out of the room, and Mr. Foster is holding her by her shirt. She was wearing red pajama pants at this time, so it did appear that she was changed. And she also described that she lost her wig in the process, so she did come out without a wig at this time, with the red pajama pants. And I later found out from her mom that the red pajama pants were some type of reindeer pattern pajama pants that they changed her into. And Mr. Foster grabbed her by the shirt, walked with her a little bit on the hallway as he was holding her, and then Miss Ashley Hill, wearing all black, came out and ended up taking her across the street towards the Wendy's.
Okay. So based on that, you took out 2 warrants?
Yes.
Okay. And just to make sure, how did you determine that the person that she knew as Montana was the defendant here?
Well, for one, she described him to me in a very specific manner, and then I also found out from hotel staff who he was. He was pointed out to me, and then when I went to the Havens Hotel, they actually gave me an ID of Mr. Montana and what he looked like. And that's when I found out his name was Mr. Foster.
Okay, and that's the person that you see on the Zoom?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And just so that it's clear, from the evidence you reviewed, how did you determine that their encounter was not consensual?
Well, because on several occasions when we interviewed her, she was very consistent, and that she continued to state that it was against her will. And than just looking at the videos and just observing that she's yelling at him, he's holding her shirt without, it just looked like he was holding her against her will.
Okay. And can you just tell us how did he rape her?
I mean, I'm not sure how he raped her. I just went by what she described.
So from your investigation that you did prior to taking out the warrants, are you able to tell us like what body part went where with her? Like which body part of his, if any? She stated
that his penis went inside her vagina, and that she also stated at a later time that he used a condom.
Okay, nothing further at this time. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Champion, would you like to cross-examine the detective?
Yes, please. Detective, can you tell me again how to pronounce your name? I don't want to mispronounce it. I know you said it.
Mirasan is fine.
Mirasan. Detective Mirasan, you are with the DeKalb PD, is that correct? I think I missed that.
Yes, it's
okay.
Correct.
And you have a badge number?
3380.
Okay, thank you. All right. Couple things I want to follow up here. So you got surveillance video from the hotel?
Yes, ma'am.
And has that video been preserved?
It is, part of it is uploaded on RMS, and then the files that didn't fit on RMS, the DA's office should have a copy of it.
Okay, so to the best of your knowledge, the video that you were able to review in investigating this case should be in the case file.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. How did you learn that, I think you said that Khalees was a runaway?
From the Department of Juvenile Justice.
How did you find that out from the Department of Juvenile Justice?
So when she went to the hospital the second time, an officer with DeKalb County was dispatched to the hospital. And when he was dispatched, the Department of Juvenile Justice was there already.
Okay, and they were there and you spoke with them?
I did when I responded to the hospital.
And what did you learn from them?
That Khalees, I believe they said that she was violating probation as far as a runaway, and that she was supposed to show up for probation. She didn't, so they were looking for her, and that they found her at the Havens Hotel that day. Well, the day of the second time that she ran away.
Okay, and you mentioned that this was the second time that she had been in the hospital. How did she get to the hospital this time?
This time, I believe it was the Department of Juvenile Justice that took her to the hospital because they believed she was a sex trafficking case.
Okay, so the Department of Juvenile Justice found her at the hotel and then they took her to the hospital on this occasion.
That's what I'm aware of, yes.
Okay. Now tell me about the first time that she was in the hospital. How did she get in the hospital that time?
That's the time that Mr. Foster called her mom to pick her up, and her sister picked her up at Wendy's and took her to the hospital.
Okay, and this first time that she was taken to the hospital by her sister, do you know why she was taken to the hospital?
She told her sister in the vehicle that she had been raped.
And have you spoken to her sisters who took her to the hospital?
Briefly over the phone. She wasn't able to talk for long when I did call her. But she just told me that, yes, she took her to the hospital and that she revealed to her that she was sexually assaulted.
What is her sister's name?
Honestly, at this time, I can't remember.
Okay. Aside from that phone call that you just mentioned where you learned that the sister is who took her to the hospital, did you have any other interview with Khalees's sister?
No.
So she has an inventory for
Okay, and you also mentioned Ashley. You said Ashley is seen on video taking Khalees to her sisters at the Wendy's. Is that correct?
Well, I'm not sure if they walked to the Wendy's. It just appears that they're walking in that direction. Khalees is the one that said the car was parked at Wendy's.
Okay, so from what you can see on the video, it appears that Ashley is walking her in the direction of Wendy's, where you found that is where her sister was waiting for her.
Yes.
Okay. Have you interviewed Ashley?
No, I have not been able to find Miss Ashley. I've been looking for her.
but there wasn't any penetration. She didn't feel it.
When you say you have been looking for her, what have you done to try and find her?
I went to the different hotels that she was staying in. She doesn't actually have an address, so she stays at different hotels, and I found that she was banned from a lot of the hotels that she used to stay at in the past, so I couldn't find her.
Okay, and how did you find out what hotels she stays at?
I
I'm
went and
gonna
I asked around.
object for just relevance.
Okay, Ms. Champion, if you could respond.
Yes, Judge, this goes to the investigation as far as what this detective was able to find and corroborate of the of Khalees's story. Part of that story had to do with her interacting with Ashley. So I'm trying to get to the bottom of what we do and do not know about Ashley as far as the detective's investigation to corroborate what Khalees said.
Okay, I will allow that question.
Can you repeat the question, ma'am?
Yes, you said that you went to different hotels where Ashley stays because she doesn't have a permanent address. How did you know what hotels she stays in?
I didn't. I knew for sure that she stayed at the United Inn. And then I just went to the different hotels on Memorial Drive where a lot of people related in this case have been staying in before. And I went to the Havens Hotel and they told me the same thing, that she couldn't stay there. And then I went to the America's Best Value Inn and I checked there as well, and she wasn't there. And those are the only hotels I checked. Well, actually, I checked one more on Memorial Drive, but she never stayed at that one.
Okay, I want to talk to you about Khalees. You got a statement from Khalees?
We have several statements from Khalees.
Okay. Are any of these statements recorded?
Yes,
Are they
they're all
video?
RMS,
They're video or audio recorded?
audio recorded.
Okay, I know you said you had several statements. How many statements did you take from police?
I took one at the Department of Juvenile Justice, which is audio recorded. There is a forensic done, which is audio and video. And then investigator Benton with the DA's office also went to the Department of Juvenile Justice and spoke with her.
And what's the timeline of those 3 statements? I'm sorry, before I ask that question.
And I apologize there, and I also spoke with her at the hospital.
Okay. And that was video?
The first day, that was audio.
Okay.
The timeline, I have it in my case notes. Do you mind if I look at it?
That's fine. You can reference your notes.
So on March 15, she was interviewed by forensic interviewer Jillian Reed. On March 14, I interviewed her myself.
And that was at the hospital?
No, that was at the Department of Juvenile Justice in Cobb County.
Okay.
I can't remember when investigator Benton interviewed her, but it was, I believe, the week after she was interviewed forensically. And then on March 2nd is when I responded to Eggleston Hospital, and that's where I first met her.
All right. You also, well, let me make sure I didn't have any. Okay. Detective, I just want to make sure before we move on from those interviews, you mentioned 4 different occasions where you interviewed Khalees. Aside from those 4 different occasions, do you have any other interviews with her?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
I shouldn't.
And you mentioned that she was at the hotel, I believe it's the Haven Hotel, with a friend, I think you said named Cap. Did I get that correct? That person was supposed to be her friend?
So she was with Cap at the United Inn on the day of the incident. And her room was downstairs. I don't remember what room it is, but it's the right corner as you're facing the hotel on the bottom.
Okay, but to your knowledge, Cap is the friend that she was staying with at that hotel.
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I didn't have that incorrect. Staying on your investigation of Khalees, so she went to the hospital. Was there any physical examination completed at the hospital?
Not on the day that she claimed she was sexually assaulted, no. On the second time she went to the hospital, yes, there was a rape kit done that was sent down to the GBI.
Okay, was she at the hospital the day that she says that she was raped?
Yes.
Okay, but that day, no exam was done.
No.
Okay, and you're saying, but the next day, there was an exam done.
Well, not the next day. The second time she was at the hospital, which I believe it was about a week later.
Okay, and do you know if this was a SANE exam?
I'm sorry?
Do you know if this was a sexual assault exam?
I believe so. It was taken down to the GBI. It was a rape kit.
Okay. Okay. And aside from a sexual assault examination, was there any physical examination for any injuries?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Her mom did tell me that the first time she went, there was a physical examination done, which was on the day she claimed she was raped. But I haven't seen the medical records of that day.
Did mom report that she had any physical injuries? I know you haven't seen any.
Mom did report to me that she did, but once again, I haven't seen it, so I'm not sure if that's correct or not.
Okay. Well, let me ask specifically about you. Did you take any pictures of Khalees when you met with her at the hospital?
The second time I took a picture of her face.
And are you aware of any other officers who took pictures of her?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Okay. And the hotel where this is said to have happened is the United or the Haven?
The United Inn.
Okay. I want to talk to you about your communications with Khalees's mom. You said you spoke to her mom. Is that okay? And was that conversation recorded?
No, it was on the phone. Somebody actually gave her my cell phone number. I'm not sure who, when she called me on there.
Okay.
So I didn't get to actually record it.
Okay. And in the investigation of this case, do you have any recorded interview with her mom?
No, unfortunately, I don't.
Okay. And we will move on to Mr. Foster. Did you have an interview of Mr. Foster?
Yes, I did.
Okay. When did you interview Mr. Foster?
I believe it was March 2nd, but give me 1 second to look at my date. I believe it was March 2nd.
Okay. And was that interview video or audio recorded?
Well, it was in our interview room, so I audio recorded it, but it also gets recorded by our camera inside the room. And both my recording is uploaded into RMS.
Okay. And aside from yourself, was Mr. Foster interviewed by any other detective or officer in that interview room?
There was somebody that was sitting in there with me. I'm trying to remember who the other detective was, but there was a detective that sat in there with me as my witness. But I did mostly the interview.
Okay, so to your knowledge, there was no other officer or detective who interviewed Mr. Foster in that interview room?
The detective that was in there with me asked a couple of questions, I'm sure. But as I said, I led the interview.
And aside from this interview that happened in the interview room, was there any other interview of Mr. Foster done?
I haven't done any other interviews with him.
Okay, to your knowledge, was there any other interview of Mr. Foster done?
I'm not sure.
To your knowledge, were there any statements made by Mr. Foster at the time of his arrest?
When he was arrested in our interview room or when he was arrested? I'm confused.
Okay, I apologize. That may be because when was he arrested?
He was picked up on Memorial Drive.
Okay, he was picked up on Memorial Drive, but are you saying at that time he was not under arrest?
He was.
Okay, so
Go ahead.
at the time that he was picked up and arrested on Memorial Drive, are you aware of any statements made by Mr. Foster?
No.
Yeah. But I got one guy who jumped on the thing.
Okay, and in your interview with Mr. Foster, he told you that he was aware that Miss Khalees was a runaway.
Correct.
Yeah, and he told you that he contacted Khalees's mother to try to get her back to her mother.
Correct.
Okay. I want to talk to you about the friend that Khalees was staying with. Did you ever get a name for him?
Nope.
Okay, so to this day in your investigation, you only know him as Cap.
Yes.
Okay, did you ever get any information about where he lives?
He stays in the hotels, just roaming the hotels like a lot of these people that are in this case.
Like nobody's gonna care. No, there's a dude sitting down. So, all right.
Do you know who the arresting officer was when Mr. Foster was arrested on Memorial Drive?
I believe it was Officer Holloman, something with an H. I have his name. Holloman. Well, it was two officers out there. It was Officer McCord and Officer Holloman. But it was Officer Holloman that came up to our interview room with him.
Right. Oh, he actually did say. So she said, but
She did not feel.
Okay. On direct examination, you mentioned that part of that video surveillance that you viewed showed Mr. Foster holding Khalees, holding her shirt.
Mhm.
Okay. In that video, you didn't see Mr. Foster physically assault her. Is that correct?
No, I did not.
Successful controlling her. I just no doubt in my mind. Separate the order. Actual administration. Yeah, you have everything. That was a girl.
I know you said you didn't see anything from the physical examination. Did you review the sexual assault, I guess, results?
I'm not sure how I would review that.
So you know that a sexual assault or rape kit was done, but in your investigation, have you spoken to any medical professional that conducted that exam?
No.
Okay. So she was at the hospital, she had the rape kit done, and then the rape kit was just submitted to GBI.
Correct.
had like written down some shit.
Okay, no further questions at this time.
Okay, Ms. Knott, do you have any redirect?
No. Wait, I just have one last question. I'm pretty sure I asked this. You said it was at the United Inn on Memorial
Yes,
in
ma'am.
DeKalb? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, no, nothing further.
Okay, can the witness be excused?
Yes.
Nothing further from defense.
Okay, thank you, Detective, for appearing. You can log off or sign off. Okay, Ms. Knott, any additional witnesses?
No.
Okay, now to you, Ms. Champion, do you wish to present any evidence or do you wish to make any argument?
No evidence, Judge. I do have argument.
Okay, I'm ready.
Judge, I do believe that the state has fallen short of probable cause in this case. The main thing I want to focus the court's attention on is whether, I guess really the crux of the matter is the victim's statement. What we heard was that the victim reported having been raped, that there was a rape kit done, but the officer didn't actually speak to any medical professional, didn't review any exam or medical records. And what I was getting at with that was, is there any physical indication that she was raped? What she described was a very violent and forcible situation. We know this is a girl young enough to be dealing with juvenile Department of Detention. So she's small. We know that Mr. Foster is a grown man. So I'm not a detective, but if I'm investigating this, I want to know, was there some kind of trauma? It doesn't sound like any of that was actually followed up on or investigated into. And the reason in this particular case, some sort of corroboration, physical or otherwise, would have needed to be done is because what the detective knew of Khalees is that she not only was a runaway, but was dodging probation in a juvenile case, that her family didn't know where she was. That was enough to put the detective on alert that this individual is not a stranger to lying to law enforcement and may have more than one reason to be lying about what she was doing at this hotel or who she was with. She is of a young age. She is vulnerable to persuasion by other people that she's hanging out with at this hotel. As the detective mentioned, a number of people at this hotel are people without stable addresses that may be here and there. There's just a lot of unknown things that would have put this detective on alert that she needs corroboration from what Khalees was saying, and that corroboration did not materialize. She watched the surveillance video of the hotel, and what that turned up for her was that Mr. Foster, what I found most interesting was that she saw Mr. Foster holding Khalees, who is known to be a runaway, has run away from her family, by her shirt, giving her to Ashley, a female, who then walks her in the direction of her family. I know there was no audio there, but he's returning her to his family. He's not holding her. The video doesn't show him beating her up. The video doesn't show him grabbing her hands and not letting her go where she's going. It literally shows that, and perhaps she was resisting going with her family. The detective also testified that Mr. Foster told the detective that he contacted the family and told the family of this runaway girl where she was and was trying to return her to her family. The evidence on the video corroborates what Mr. Foster told the detective. But what I didn't hear from the detective was corroboration of what Khalees is saying happened. She's saying that she was in a vicious attack or assault, but we don't have any evidence of any physical injuries that would have corroborated that would have been indicative of her being in some, kind of vicious assault as she detailed to the police officers. I understand that it seems like what the detective mainly leaned on was the fact that her statement was consistent those different times that she was interviewed. But if you have a story and you stick to it, that in and of itself does not lend credibility to that story, where, especially in this case, there's reason to doubt what you're saying because you have a motive to bend the truth or outright to be lying. I think it's obvious here that more investigation into this claim should have been done and was not done. And at this point, I believe the state has failed to present probable cause as to the charge of rape.
Okay, and Ms. Knott?
Yes, Judge. The state believes that there was probable cause and is probable cause for these charges for both the rape and the aggravated assault. Based on the officer's testimony, the defendant forcibly held the victim in that bathroom and smashed her head into the toilet, and then proceeded to then hold her hands behind her back while he still had control of her head, where he then inserted his penis into her vagina. While standing there, she ran out and was disheveled, as the officer saw on the video, and testified to. She told them who the person was. Those things were corroborated. As to whether or not the victim's believable, that's a fact question that should be that the jury has to determine. The jury determines whether or not a witness is reliable, or how much weight they would give that their credibility. The video supports what was mentioned. The story was consistent, and at the end of the day, the probable cause was there based on what the statute requires. He did those things in a close, timely manner. Like, he pushed her head down, held her, and stopped her from being able to do anything, and then proceeded to rape her. So we believe that there's probable cause for the aggravated assault as well. Yeah, that's the state believes that the case should be bound over.
So I was reviewing this statute on the aggravated assault. I didn't hear much about that. Of course, 16521A, a person commits the offense of ag assault when he or she assaults with the intent to rape. Is that what the state is going on as it pertains to the second count?
Yes, where he pushed her head repeatedly into the toilet while holding her hands down. Yes, he used the toilet and the toilet and his hands together constitute make it aggravated.
Okay, I was just reading the statutes, which I always like to go back to do. Okay, one moment. Okay, excuse my voice again. I do apologize. So, with respect to both charges, I will bind them over as stated. Of course, Mr. Foster, understand that this is a probable cause hearing, so the burden is extremely low. The evidence presented by the state, of course, does meet the probable cause standard. That does not mean that it would meet beyond a reasonable doubt standard. So I'm sure Ms. Champion will follow up with you about what steps will be next. But again, I just stress that this is merely the probable cause standard. So because at that level, of course, it's substantially lower than reasonable doubt, I will bind both charges over as they are. Anything further?
Nothing further from defense. Judge may be excused.
Yes, ma'am.